You read the title, you saw the thumbnail. It's time we accept the truth. Our GOATs are officially washed. With both major international tournaments going on at the same time, the footballing world was collectively keeping a close eye on both Ronaldo and Messi, as they would be going into what's probably their penultimate international tournament. Realistically, these guys are probably going to push themselves to play in the 2026 World Cup, even if they have to be there in wheelchairs for it. We're going to want to see how these guys perform on the big stage, since they had each spent some time establishing themselves in leagues that are far below the level that we witnessed these guys in at their very long peaks. Well, as much as I hate to say it, both of these guys look finished. And I'm 1000% sure I'm gonna have hate from both sides, or people trying to justify their performances in one way or another. But my brothers, it is time we let go and accept the changes that are happening before our very eyes. And I'm not trying to say that these guys are bums by any stretch of the imagination. They're still better than 98% of all footballers out there, but we must accept what's really going on for these guys. So let's take a look at each of these guys' international runs this summer. And real quick, boys, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Weekly video essays, weekly football content. 97% of you guys are not subbed, so make sure we're subbing, hitting that notification bell so you don't miss an upload. And if you're not new to the channel, boys, welcome back. Glad to have you back for another video. That being said, boys, let's get into Ronaldo and Messi being finished. So we'll start off with Ronaldo's group stage games. So in their game against Czechia, to the disappointment of many hate watchers, Ronaldo didn't look too bad. In all honesty, he was doing a great job of linking up with his teammates, motivating those around him to push for the win, making the most out of a few chances that Portugal was creating, and he even finally got a free kick to at least go on target. It definitely showed that he maybe wasn't as clinical or sharp as we all knew him to be, but it was nowhere near a Hall of Shame performance either. This might have been one of his best performances at the tournament, probably his second best to be honest, and he would follow this up with what was probably his best performance against Turkey. His movement off the ball was phenomenal. He still lacked a little bit in the finishing department, but the fact that he was still getting into these great spots was great signs for Ronaldo fans. The guy even managed to absolutely embarrass a Turkish defender and left them on the ground. Additionally, we saw a great feat of unselfishness as he would square the ball to Bruno for an easy sweaty goal, easily securing Ronaldo into a top 100 football respect moments compilation. Unfortunately, this is where Ronaldo's performances would take an absolute nosedive. Ronaldo would be one of the few players that wouldn't get arrested against Georgia, and he would go on to drop an absolute stinker. He would hardly get on the ball this match. He skied a couple of good opportunities. He lost his temper in search of a penalty, and ultimately looked completely off of it and would end up getting hooked off at around the 66th minute. All in all, it wasn't the worst group stage run for Ronaldo, and with the spot set for the round of 16, there was still time for Ronaldo to really make an impact for Portugal in this tournament. Now it's time to take a look into Messi's group stage at Copa America. Messi started off his campaign against Canada, where Argentina would take some time to feel out their opponents, but ultimately would come out on top. Messi this match looked quite sharp as he was really the catalyst for a lot of the attacks that Argentina was creating, but even then, it wasn't a performance for Messi where you can say he rolled back the clock and stunned the entire world, but he definitely imposed himself on the match and pushed Argentina forward. He would end this match with a very sleek assist into Lautaro Martinez, which was a nice touch. However, he would miss multiple clear opportunities where he could have just put the nail in the coffin for the game, but this really showed how much he's regressed over the years. But ultimately, overall, this was a good match for Messi. Again, not groundbreaking, but good match. To follow up this performance, Messi would drop another okay performance against Chile. In what was a very physically grueling match, Messi would again prove to be the heartbeat of Argentina, as he would constantly drop deep to try and create for his teammates. As with Ronaldo versus Turkey, we saw a couple of glimpses of old school Messi where he would take on a couple of players, but then would run out of steam when all was said and done. Despite the good performance, it was still clear that this wasn't the Messi that we were all necessarily hoping to see. And then after the Chile game, unfortunately for the thousands and thousands of attendants in Miami, Messi would miss the Argentina versus Peru game due to a knock that he picked up in the Chile match. So Messi would end his group stage with two good performances, but still far from what Messi's really known for. Again, something that we should expect from someone that is 37 years old. So the knockout stages in the Euro saw Ronaldo's performances take an even deeper dive down. This is probably the furthest from peak Ronaldo that we've seen in a long time. The entire match he struggled to get on the end of many crosses into the box, which given his great movement a few games ago, felt like a big regression. He would cheaply give the ball away on multiple occasions. He would hog a ridiculous free kick on the side, which he really had no business taking. And in the biggest shock to the footballing world, he would miss a penalty at the 105th minute that could have potentially clinched the game. game. For me, this was the biggest sign that this is no longer the Ronaldo that we know, and he had regressed significantly from what we know Ronaldo to be. He would ultimately score in the penalty shootout that saw Portugal progress past this round, but the fact that Ronaldo missed such a perfect opportunity with his first penalty genuinely had me in shock. 10 times out of 10, this guy scores this penalty, and for him to miss at this point after the group stage games that he had was a shocker for me, for a lot of people out there. You saw how much this meant for Ronaldo. Whether you think it was PR tears or not, I'm sure it had a great effect for him. But after all was said and done, Portugal was still progressed like I mentioned, and now Ronaldo was going up against his prodigy, Mbappe. Fortunately for Ronaldo, this would be his final match in the competition, as France would beat Portugal in penalties. For Ronaldo on an individual level, his Euro send-off was nothing special. While it wasn't necessarily his worst match, as he would have a few nice sequences of linking up with his teammates, he would essentially be a non-factor this entire match. Pair that with, again, cheaply giving the ball away a few times, blasting another free kick straight into the wall, and then again missing such a great opportunity that he did create for himself with phenomenal movement off the ball, and it really felt like Ronaldo's time as an imposing figure at the top level had finally run out. So now we turn our attention to Messi and his knockout stages in the Copa America. But versus Ecuador, Messi didn't really manage to do too much. This was probably his worst game at the tournament, if we're being real. He was getting on the ball, but he was honestly dropping way too deep, and this probably also was in part to how Ecuador lined up tactically. He did manage to have some nice turns, a couple of nice knock-ons, but this was nowhere near the Messi of the past. He did have a corner that led to a goal, but other than that, he wasn't really doing anything too out of the ordinary. It was a pretty average performance. Even then, it was probably below average for what we expect for Messi. Again, going back to the idea of these guys are still great players, but nowhere near what we expect even at the tail end of their peak. And this all culminated in Messi missing the first penalty in the shootout. We had flashbacks to the Copa America finals where he would miss his penalties. This was a good time for Ronaldo fans. They got their lick back. Ronaldo was getting so much stick for missing his first penalty against Slovenia, and here you have Messi missing his penalty. So tit for tat, these guys. One of them does something, the other one has to do the same thing, even at the ages that they're at the moment. Ultimately, Argentina saw the penalty shootout through, so you could say he got a little bit lucky there, but given the fact how Messi played this game, he missed his penalty. This was by far his worst game. Again, he looked out of it. Follow this match, they had to run it back against Canada, and run it back, they absolutely did. Messi was on the end of a lot of Argentina's attack. This was another match where he was imposing himself as, again, the heartbeat of Argentina. So it was definitely better compared to the last two games, but still nowhere near what we expect from Messi. He would end up getting a very cheap goal, which a goal is a goal, I guess, and I'm sure the knock-on that he had probably did help the ball go in the back of the net. But with this performance, Messi and Argentina were through to the final against an unbeaten Colombian side. So now for the final, it was not the most amazing game for Messi. He's had better games, he's had better finals. He kind of just coasted. Up until just about halftime, Messi didn't really do much. Again, he would be the player that got on the ball the most. That is how Argentina choose to play, so he is getting a lot of time on the ball. But Argentina never really got into a flow. Kind of shows how Messi wasn't really doing anything. And then just before halftime, Messi would go down hurt, and it looked like he had to come off. The man rolled back onto the pitch like he just got his leg chopped off, but he was in pain, and we saw as the game went on, Messi was really in a lot of discomfort. He would thug it out until the 66th minute, but it got to a point where too much was too much and he had to come off. That meant Argentina was Messi-less for the rest of the game. And when Messi came off, he gifted the footballing world probably one of the best memes, and one of the memes that's gonna stick around for a very long time, as he was in absolute agony on the pain. So many tears for Messi. He knew his time was done. He probably felt the regression. The man's ankle was huge. Oh my god. The photos of his ankle were absolutely crazy. Super duper swollen. Ultimately, Argentina would get the job done. So Messi and Argentina are back-to-back Copa America champions, but not the best tournament for Messi, and it all ended up with him having a huge swollen ankle. So where does that leave these two from here? So again, I do just want to emphasize, these guys aren't terrible, right? They're not bottom, they're not Sunday League players, they're not even League One championship players. These guys could probably still do a shift in the top leagues, but nothing very good, to be honest. They're both washed. Messi still has his IQ of touching and moving, but his finishing isn't good. Ronaldo, no more pace, regressing a little bit in IQ. I mean, let's just be real, guys. I love both of them. I have my GOAT, which I'll keep to myself, but they both just look out of it. We need to accept the truth. Why hide it anymore? Father Time waits for no one.